Today, we have someone who was requested by you in the Getter chat. He came to be very beloved by MAGA Nation when he left the Democrat Party and endorsed President Trump. Representative Vernon Jones joins us now. Vernon, so great to see you. Thanks for being with us on this new segment. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Dr. Gina, and congratulations on your new segment. And I know, me being just an old country boy, you must have a lot of country following people following you. And so I like to think there was good old country folks that said, look, get that country boy on there again.
They just love you. I don't know where they're from, but they just love you. We have fun saying that it's harder to come out of the closet as a Republican than it is, especially as a MAGA Republican. I don't even like the word Republican anymore. Jason, don't put that in the prompter. MAGA Republican, a MAGA conservative, than it is for a gay person to come out of the closet. And I've had folks like Brandon Straka and others tell me that right here on the show because it really is true. Tell us about the personal cost. How did people react? Friends, family, former allies? What was it like when you did come out as MAGA?
Well, first of all, you have to understand this. We call here in Georgia 3 strikes and you out, or the 3 deadly sins with the liberal media and with Democrats. If a white Democrat comes out and support a Republican, it's fine. Actually, it's elevated by the liberal media and others. We just had 2 former governors, Democrats, that came out and endorsed Brian Kemp. Good thing. But when a black Democrat comes out and endorses a Republican, all hell break loose. And so when you just look at the environment, period, the 3 strikes you're out. 1, if you're a Democrat, the liberal media is against you. If you're a Trump endorsed candidate, the 2nd strike, the liberal media is against you. And if you are a black conservative, you have all 3 of them. 1, you're a Democrat. 2, you, like me and Herschel, you were supported by President Trump. And 3, being black and being a conservative and a Republican, oh, it is hell. But it is hell because they are afraid and they see that they're losing all of those people of color who nationally have been voting for the Democrat Party, who are now, they're beginning to be independent. They're voting independently, including voting for many Republicans from Florida with Ron DeSantis, all the way up to Dr. Oz and going west to Kerry Lake. They're voting Republican. Why? Because they're voting their pocketbooks too. Look at what's happening with gas prices, inflation, the interest rates, the borders being overrun. And they're sick of these issues that the Democrats are pushing, like killing a baby just before a baby is born, or gender identification for children in school when they should be learning ABCs and not about LGBTQs. And so people are getting fed up with that. What it costs for materials. I shop at Home Depot quite a bit, and I've been getting some materials, doing a little home improvement. And what happens when I see the cost of materials and then to order a refrigerator, it's no telling when it'll come because of the supply chain. So, Dr. Gina, you're on target like the Republican Party. It's the economy to all these dummies out there. It's the economy. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no doubt about it. It is. And the Democrats handed us these issues on a silver platter, the most disgusting silver platter you can ever imagine. I couldn't believe when Donald Trump was not going to be president that they could screw it up this badly and this quickly. But they sure did, and handed us the midterms, no doubt. Representative, you spent a long time in the State House in Georgia as a lawmaker. But before that, you were very successful in the private sector, which is the opposite of a lot of politicians, frankly. They usually run for office and then become super wealthy, like Joe Biden, like Nancy Pelosi, like pretty much everyone I can think of in the Democrat Party, honestly. So then they get a job because of their political connections. But you had a lot of experience in business and the private sector before you were ever in politics. Tell us a little bit about your biography.
Well, obviously, I spent a lot of time in the private sector in Fortune 500 companies. My degree and backgrounds in information technology and finance. I spent time in management in private companies and traveled both nationally and internationally. But you mentioned also that I was in the legislature for 12 years. That is true. But I also was county executive, where I actually had an opportunity to run a government that's larger than some states. And so I have on-hand chief executive experience. I have on-hand experience in the private sector and working for myself and understand what people have to deal with when they have to meet a payroll. You take a Joe Biden who's been on the government all of his life, literally on the government. What does he know about meeting a payroll? What does he know about what is actually the impact that his policies are having on people who are small business people, or those who are trying to get into small business? Now they want to tax you on Venmo and Zelle. And when you have small businesses people who have lawn services, now they're being taxed through Venmo and Cash App and all of those. Why? Because they're trying to take money from regular folks and do what? Waste it on illegal, spend all this money on illegal, spending all this money sending to other foreign countries of foreign aid, wanting to what? Just wipe away student debt. I mean, it's crazy. His policies, his fiscal policies are just ridiculous. And it's now, as we say, the roosters or the chickens are coming home to roost.
Yes, exactly. You spent time on both sides of the political aisle also, and we hear that there's so much more racism everywhere today among people on the right side of politics. That's what we hear. But you've been on both sides. So where have you found the most racism, the right or left, among Republicans or Democrats?
Let me say maybe the most ignorance, and maybe that breeds racism. But I do have a unique background, working in private sector, working in government, actually been a legislator and been a chief executive. But I've also had to oversee elections where, you know, you and I both know elections are held at the local level, not at the state level. If there are long lines and the machines aren't working, you hold those responsible at the local levels. They're the ones who should be managing that project. But here's where I see ignorance, and I see the blatant racism and bigotry, certainly in the Democratic Party. They actually think that black people cannot think for themselves. I mean, to say in Georgia that if you have to have a photo ID to send in with a copy of it to send in with your absentee ballot, that is voter suppression, that a black person been held down, they cannot vote because they don't have a free photo ID. I call it free because you can get it free in Georgia, but a white person has to do it. When they lie and say that black people can't have water in line, it's a blatant lie. You can have water, you just can't serve it within 150 feet of the entrance of the polling places. But people are not going there to drink water, they're going there to vote. And so again, to put these things out there, and remember the big suppression. We've had almost every day, record-breaking numbers of people voting in Georgia, but including and not limited to what? The African-American vote. Look how we lost the Braves game. I should say we lost the Major League Baseball All-Star game. Why? Because Joe Biden said we had Jim Crow laws here. And ironically, they took the Major League Baseball All-Star game from a city of Atlanta with a population maybe about 50% African-American, and they sent it to Denver where there's a 9% African-American population. And not to mention the election laws in New York are much more stringent or constrained, I would say, than the laws in Georgia. But Major League Baseball did not move its headquarters. And, you know, so yes, it's blatant. And the liberal media, again, they're doing everything they can to attack people like myself and Herschel because we're black Republicans. They want us to stay on that mental plantation. And let me tell you, for Democrats, for liberal Democrats, it's more than just losing the House and the Senate. It's about losing their slaves. It's about losing black voters because they cannot make it without the black vote. But ironically, they're the first ones they go after before the elections, but the first ones they throw off the bus after the elections. I mean, illegals are treated better than African-American veterans and white veterans and just veterans, period, where they're living under bridges. But illegals are coming across this country, living in fancy hotels in New York, and getting access to resources that our own people don't have here. Dr. Gina, when I look at all this, the Democratic Party has been destructive to many communities, but certainly the African-American community. And you know, it's time for African-Americans to be destructive to those liberals. And as many of us get out there now, yeah, we're being shot after day in, day out by the liberal media, but the more of us out there, the more of us, the choir's getting bigger and louder, I should say. And after a while, they just can't sing out one here and knock that one off or one there. There are so many of us, they're going to have to retreat. And they are very, very upset about the possibility of losing the black vote.